Hey everybody, Brian Zane here with my review of Extreme Rules 2019. This show capped off a massive, some might call exhausting weekend of professional wrestling because there was not only this show, but before that there was the G1, there was AEW's Fight for the Fallen, there was the Evolve 10th Anniversary show. Those two happened on the same night, and of course there was this. If you watched all that, or even 3 out of the 4, my hat is off to you because that's a lot of time to dedicate to professional wrestling viewing in a single weekend. I certainly could not do that in this weekend given my current life state and everything, but here we are, Extreme Rules. This was the show, out of all those that I mentioned, probably has the most amount of pressure and scrutiny and like the least expectations going into it. So how would this show respond? Well, we're going to find out pretty soon because the pre-show begins with an Intercontinental Championship match where Finn Balor defends against Shinsuke Nakamura in a rematch from last Tuesday. This match was only announced a couple hours before the pre-show began. It's a good match as expected though. Early on, Balor goes for a planche out of the outside, but he pretty much takes the entire thing on the floor. That doesn't look very good. The match ends when Finn misses the coup de grace. Shinsuke hits the knee to the back of the head, followed up by the Kinshasa. Nakamura wins for the second time this week against Finn and is the new Intercontinental Champion. I give the match 2.5 stars. A solid opener for a pre-show. A title change is always a nice way to get the crowd excited for what's to come. It certainly justifies Shinsuke beating Finn last week on Smackdown, even though I maintain we shouldn't have even had that match to begin with. And I know on Who Wore It Better last week when I talked about that match and I complained that Shinsuke shouldn't have won, people said, well, Shinsuke needed to win because it would make him look strong. Or, hear me out on this, maybe we don't have them wrestle in a non-title match for the first time after they're both just gone from television for the longest time, leading into the pay-per-view match less than a week later with the same outcome. You could have made Shinsuke look strong, having him win a few matches at least on television before challenging Finn in a non-title matchup, while keeping Finn on television in the public consciousness, but neither of those guys were on television, and I maintain what I said last week, that Finn had more to lose last week in losing because he was the champion going into it. And again, I know champions lose non-title matches all the time, but to me this is a case where both guys weren't really on TV that much, and so it was almost kind of a fresh start for both of them, it seems. But with Shin winning 2 matches in a row here, 2 matches in a week, I think that's fine. And don't get me wrong, I'm happy he won the belt, but I'm not optimistic as to what's going to happen with him as a champion because ever since Dean Ambrose held the Intercontinental Championship late last year, it's just been like one disappointing Intercontinental Champion after another, and it's just been going on, and I'm not very excited about it. So not since Seth Rollins has anyone done anything with that belt, so what more can we possibly expect here? Your pre-show main event is for the Cruiserweight Championship as Drew Gulak defends against Tony Nese, former best friends, now bitter rivals. Great stuff here between both guys. Great flying work in particular by Nese. At one point he hits Drew with a 450 and he's all knees there. A great sequence by these guys where Gulak rolls off the ropes and catches Nese in kind of a sunset flip, ending with a nice powerbomb by Gulak and a kick out. Drew hits the Cyclone Crash to win, clean as a whistle. I give this one 2.5 stars as well. Another solid matchup between 2 exciting guys. If I'm looking at comparing the other Cruiserweight title matches we've been seeing in pay-per-views the last several months, I don't think this one reaches those upper levels, but this one's still good nonetheless. They bust out some impressive spots. The crowd was definitely into this one because Drew is from Philadelphia, and so yes, overall a solid way to end the pre-show. Well, how's this for a shocker? The first match of the official show is that no-holds-barred tag team match as Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre take on Roman Reigns and The Undertaker, who I believe the company was referring to them on social media this past weekend as the Graveyard Dogs, which is a fucking awesome name for a tag team, but for some reason I didn't hear commentary bring that up once at all during the matchup. But yeah, this is, it's shocking. It's crazy to see The Undertaker opening a show of any kind. So yeah, the rules are tag team rules apply, but you can't get disqualified, no holds barred, so what's stopping the partners from just being in the ring the entire time? Oh, WWE logic. Anyway, during Roman's entrance, Michael Cole makes the first reference in this entire build to the fact that Roman actually beat The Undertaker a few years ago at WrestleMania, which never got brought up in the build for this entire matchup here. Shane blocks the old school early on, but Taker gets his heat nonetheless. Shane and Drew cut off Roman and work him over for the next several minutes. Taker with a big ol' hot tag. He sets Shane up for the last ride on the announce table, but Elias makes the save. He El Kabongs Taker from behind. Roman fights him off, but Drew hits the Claymore on Roman, then on The Undertaker. Shane with a big-ass elbow from the top rope to the announce table and the coast-to-coast the trash can. Roman finally wakes up a little bit to slow down and distract Shane and impede him in his progress. Shane drags Taker to the middle of the ring. We get the big sit and a huge pop. We got a chokeslam to Shane, one to Elias. Drew teases the Claymore behind The Undertaker with a really cool shot here, but Roman intercepts Drew with a spear. Roman throws Shane into Taker. They try to go into the tombstone Tombstone, but it's not smooth enough. But we do a do-over, Tombstone to Shane, and the Graveyard Dogs win this one. I give this match 2.5 stars out of 4. I think that even though it wasn't the prettiest match in the world, still told a great story, still very exciting. The crowd was really into it. Everyone hit all their big spots and everything. We got the best of both worlds from the best in the world when Shane got all his shit in and still lost, actually took the fall here. And that's almost to a fault. The reason I didn't put it at 3 stars is because there is a bit of a nitpicky thing I have where Taker takes all this big stuff. He gets hit with a guitar, he gets elbowed through the table, he gets a coast-to-coast trash can, but ultimately he just gets up, hits 2 moves, and boom, he wins. It's very similar to the complaints we've had about Roman Reigns matches for a long time, oddly enough, in which he'll get his ass beat for the majority of a match, hit like a couple Superman punches, spear, and he wins, after 1 spear. Very similar thing here. Again, I think the excitement of The Undertaker appearing, he doesn't have to do much to get a "he still got it" chant, but he pulled his stuff off well here. Much better than, say, Undertaker Goldberg from earlier this year. But yeah, I would say that I'm glad. I hope to not see Shane McMahon in more than 1 segment per night ever again. However, he is feuding with Kevin Owens coming up, so there you go. After the match, Taker pretty much passes the torch to Roman in the ring, saying, "It's your yard now, you're the man now, dog." And then Roman's music hits, and then Taker's music hits again. He poses. Cole says, "We don't know how many more times we're going to get to see this." I mean, how many years have we heard that exact phrase? Backstage, the champs, Seth and Becky, are being interviewed, and it's kind of clunky. It's just another one of those kind of like overly scripted, such good shit, pal, kind of interviews we see here. At one point, Seth makes a joke about how they were walking through the city of Philadelphia looking for inspiration, and Seth makes this joke about, the Liberty Bell's got a crack in it, which is what Corbin's going to have in his skull after I stomp him. It would have been so much better to me if he said, the Liberty Bell's got a big crack in it, which is exactly what Baron Corbin's smoking if he thinks that he's going to beat me for the belt tonight. Raw Tag Title match up next as the Revival defend against the Usos. The Usos hope to become 7-time tag team champions in this matchup here. Early on, double dive by the Usos. You see one of them rolls headfirst in the announce table upon landing. Also, when did the other Uso lose a tooth? Good tag team wrestling overall by both teams. I love the sneaky double teaming and the chicanery by the Revival throughout this matchup here. Scary bump by Dawson, though, as he and Jay fall off the top turnbuckle. He pretty much takes a bump on the top rope across his back before he falls. The Usos make their comeback. Very interesting alley-oop into a Samoan drop. The Revival hit the Power and Glory finisher. I was just looking at that finisher the other day and thought, man, that move really needs to come back. And who else brings it back but the Revival? But we get a 2 count after Jimmy Uso makes a save. We get a blind tag. The Revival hit the Shatter Machine on Jimmy to win and retain the titles. I give this one 2.5 stars as well. The match started out fast and it ended strong as well. Like I said, great tag team work by both teams here. It's a match that somehow had all the build, yet none of the build, as Aleister Black takes on Cesaro. Of course, for months we've been seeing those Aleister Black promos in the dark room asking for someone to pick a fight with him. And finally, on the go-home Smackdown, Cesaro revealed himself as the one who knocked. It's kind of a brilliant move by the company where it's like, yeah, we know that we're not going to show the opponent until like the show before the pay-per-view, but hey, it's Cesaro and Aleister Black. On paper it's going to be a badass match. And you know what? They were right. This match absolutely killed. Early on, Cesaro with some mind games with a sit-down. Great athletic matchup here. Very hard hitting. Both men take it to the air with ease. I love at one point Black goes for a Meteora off the top, but Cesaro catches him on his shoulders. Great balance here and hits the uppercut. Wow. Black works Cesaro's leg, which causes Cesaro to be unable to capitalize on certain moves. The two are exchanging big strikes. Aleister finally nails the Black Mass after a valiant fight by Cesaro. Aleister wins the matchup here. I give it 3.5 stars. I'm not gonna, it's like, I want to try and tell you how good this match is, but I didn't want to give too many details. You just have to see this match for yourself. It's a beautiful match. Such a great mix and meshing of their respective styles, working to perfection here. Great showing by both guys, and Aleister Black winning big here. It's good for him because he's been, off TV, not wrestling for so long on air. So for him to have this big match here against a very credible opponent is very good. I don't think Cesaro is going to be hurt by this loss at all. I wanted these guys to go on much longer, but you know what? We can't have it all. Backstage, R-Truth and Carmella are on the hunt for Hornswoggle, aka Drake Maverick, when Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross enter the shot. Alexa gives Nikki a gift. It's a pre-tattered version of her own shirt. In come the Street Profits. They trade some banter and drop a 76ers reference when they say they trust the process. Nikki Cross asserts that she and Alexa will win and become co-champions. We then go to that match right now. It's a 2-on-1 handicap match for the SmackDown Women's Championship as Bayley defends the team of Alexa and Nikki. Alexa and Nikki with the advantage on Bayley for much of the match, but she is able to make a comeback that includes a big old dive to the outside onto Cross. Nice double submission by Bayley onto both of her opponents at one point. Alexa goes for Twisted Bliss, but up come the knees. Bayley decks Nikki Cross while she's in the air as well. Elbow drop to Nikki. Bayley defies the odds and retains the championship. Just call her CBA. Champion Bayley.
Do you want me to negotiate your guys' new CBA? Do you have a CBA?
No, but
let's make one.
Okay, you know what?
I'm gonna give the match 2 stars out of 4. It's pretty well paced for a handicap match. I feel it's gonna be kind of difficult to really orchestrate, but they pulled it off pretty well here. But nothing too crazy what we saw here in the match. Genuinely surprised though that Bayley was able to walk away with the championship. I guess in that way they're making Bayley look far stronger as a SmackDown Women's Champion than they ever did when she was the Raw Women's Champion. Also kind of surprised we didn't get that Sasha Banks return that a lot of people were kind of theorizing about, myself included. Nikki mentioned it on Raw, kind of teasing that maybe somebody should be in her corner. And they certainly brought up Sasha, kind of not by name though, on commentary in this particular matchup. So I'm kind of surprised that we didn't see it, but maybe we'll get that later, who knows. Up next, last man standing match as Bobby Lashley takes on Braun Strowman, who's making his first appearance back on TV since he and Bobby put a hole through the set a couple of weeks ago on Monday Night Raw. The action starts out hard hitting from the get-go. Big ass spear by Lashley on the outside, and it's all Lashley for a while. They make their way to the concourse area into the merch stand. I love when Strowman just basically suplexes and tosses Lashley straight into the wall where the merch is being hung up. It sure is convenient that their fight didn't go beyond where the security guards were there kind of in the perimeter of that space. Back at ringside, Lashley drives Strowman into the barricade, causing it to break. Lashley pushes Strowman onto the floor, then dumps the announce table onto him. Strowman gets back up. Lashley tries to springboard off the barricade into the crowd area, and Strowman kind of catches him, dumps him into the international row of announcers. I felt bad for Lashley here, honestly, because I get the idea he was supposed to do kind of a jump on the barricade, jump off, Strowman catches him, and they recovered fairly well, but man, I think that would have been a much more epic moment had Lashley stuck the landing on the barricade and jumped off clean before Strowman caught him. Back into the crowd we go, Strowman with a big old power slam into the abyss. We don't see them land anywhere, we wonder where they went. Oh, it's a giant wooden box covering up this main entrance of the arena with a conveniently placed crash pad hidden inside. Strowman emerges from the box like a more coordinated Shockmaster as the referee gives his count. So Strowman is the last man standing. You know what? I'm going to give this one 3.5 stars out of 4. I'm a sucker for Hoss matches where they just beat the shit out of each other. And this is like 2 Hosses who are agile and athletic and look like they're hitting you with everything they got. And it was just so fun. They went all over the arena. They definitely did a lot of environmental attacks and damage and stuff. And that was really cool. I think it's so fun when they're allowed to go beyond the construct of just the one ring and the barricades and stuff. And they're able to do more fun things like that. Even though the ending of this box that takes up the entire entranceway from one part of the concourse where the crash pad's hidden, kind of a contrived thing to do, but still just a really strong match. I think they both look great here. Strowman, the last man standing. I approve of that. Yeah, just a fun match. The club are backstage. AJ Styles tells Kayla that he's going to take that title away from Ricochet, and then they kayfabe her on the 2 Sweet at the end. We then go to the SmackDown Tag Team title match as the Planet's champions, Daniel Bryan and Rowan, defending against Heavy Machinery and Xavier and Big E of the New Day. These guys just pulling out all the stops by the end of this match here. Everyone gets a chance to shine, whether they're giving moves, taking moves. Really, everyone's doing really well for the whole match here. We get Big E's spear to the outside. Otis teases a dive, but he does it in segments. I love it. Then Tucker with a big dive of his own. Heavy Machinery hit Big E with a compactor, but Xavier makes the save. Big E superplexes Rowan, but Daniel made a blind tag. He jumps in with a headbutt and a label lock. He's grabbing every limb he can to keep Big E from getting to the ropes, but he perseveres. Big E gets back up. He takes some slaps from D-Bry. Next thing you know, they hit Bryan with the up, up, down, down to win the match and become the new SmackDown Tag Team Champions. I give this one 3 stars out of 4. Another great match here. Everyone's fulfilled their roles expertly here. I think, I had my doubts about Heavy Machinery early on in their main roster run, but they've really won me over. If not for their promos and their bushwhacker stuff, at least in ring, they're doing the same kind of stuff they did on NXT, but elevated slightly. I think they're really endearing themselves to the fans. So Heavy Machinery is all right by me at this point in the game. And, I think that at least even though Raw's tag team scene feels kind of anemic right now, SmackDown's tag scene does appear to be in good hands with these 3 teams as kind of the starting block, the nucleus of that division. At Gorilla Position, all 3 members of the New Day are celebrating the big win. Right now, they all have championship gold. When then Paul Heyman shows up and takes the microphone and goes to the stage. He promises that Brock Lesnar will cash in the Money in the Bank and become champion once again, but on whom? The U.S. title's on the line as Ricochet defends against AJ Styles. AJ's flanked by his club buddies, Anderson and Gallows. Before the bell rings, the three of them actually beat down Ricochet for a bit, and then Ricochet's good to go though. Once the bell rings, he's back to his flippy self. Big shooting star press off the apron to the outside on Styles. Great athleticism by Rico. Well, both guys really, but Ricochet, of course, is getting a chance to shine with all his big moves. One point he runs off AJ and does a backflip off his chest, kind of shades of Will Ospreay there. Crazy bump out of a suplex where he puts himself into a tree of woe. I've never seen that a suplex like that taken like that in the corner. Ricochet with another beautiful shooting star press. Styles' leg is under the ropes and Anderson gets the ref to catch it. Kind of a reversal of fortune from what happened the last time they fought on Raw when Ricochet's leg was under after the phenomenal forearm. Rico to the top rope. Gallows knocks him down with the referees distracted. AJ with a damn Styles clash off the second rope. Oh my goodness, that bump looked stiff. And Styles wins and is once again the United States champion. I give this one 3.5 stars out of 4. I mean, just what a match. I honestly am running out of superlatives to articulately describe just how good a lot of these matches are because God, Ricochet and Styles especially, everything you saw them do the last couple times they wrestled on Monday Night Raw, pales in comparison to what they busted out in their pay-per-view match here, as it should be. But man, this match was just off the charts. The only reason I don't give it 4 stars is because the dirty finish where Gallows costs Ricochet the matchup. Hopefully that'll set something up down the line for a rematch at SummerSlam, but man, this is a damn near perfect match. I loved it. In another match that was added the day of the show, Kevin Owens takes on Dolph Ziggler. Arrive, hit the stunner, leave. That was literally it. Kevin hit just one move on Dolph and beat him with it. I give it a 0.5 star out of 4 because hey, at least it was a good looking stunner. After the match, Kevin gets on the microphone. He stands by what he said about Shane McMahon last week, and he follows it up by saying Shane McMahon can kiss his ass. Ooh, snap. Kofi Kingston defends the WWE Championship against Samoa Joe up next. In the first minute or so, at one point Joe sweeps the leg, and the bend that Kofi's leg takes upon that looks nasty as hell. I thought we were going to have the match just ending right there. It looked so bad. Joe crushes Kofi's fingers under the ring steps to boot later on. Kofi, that was muy resilient, kicks out of a lot of stuff that Joe throws at him, busts out an SOS out of nowhere, but Joe kicks out. Nice catch into the clutch by Joe after Kofi goes for trouble in paradise. But what I like even more than that catch is what happens at the end of that spot where, you've seen this before where, someone's in the clutch and the wrestler will kind of post off the corner and land on him and he'll get pinned while Joe's got the hold still locked in on him. He was going to go for that, but Joe sees that right away and just hits him with the Uranagi as he's coming off the corner, which is a great little wrinkle. I've never seen him do that before. Nice little evolution of that spot there. We get some dueling "we want Lesnar, no we don't" chants as this match goes on. Near the end though, Kofi dodges a Joe attack, hits the Trouble in Paradise, and wins to retain the championship. And right now, the New Day are just draped in gold and nickel. I give this one 2.5 stars out of 4. I think it was a good match, solid match, just not at the same level of excitement and drama and intrigue to me as a lot of the other matches we've been seeing so far on the night. And man, do I feel bad for Samoa Joe. This is I think someone wrote, it's been 8 title matches he's been in between WWE Championship and Universal Championship matches over the last 2 years, and he's got goose eggs. Hasn't won a single one of them. It's how many more times can you put him in a title match and after he talks a big game and looks dominant in the build and has great on the microphone and then just loses? And it's always clean, and it's how can you make him look tough anymore? It's the same exact situation that Bray Wyatt fell into for the last couple of years as he was a singles guy. He's again and again, always talking a big game, always looking really good in the build, and then immediately loses and just loses all credibility. And I think after 8 times of this with Joe, I can't imagine how many more times he's going to get a championship match. And even if he does hypothetically win a title by the time he's done, I think it's going to be too late. In your main event, they're throwing all the gimmicks into this match, baby. It's a winners-take-all Extreme Rules mixed tag team match as Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch defend their Universal and Raw Women's titles respectively against Baron Corbin and Lacey Evans. As Lacey's making her entrance, we get a big old shot of her ass, just front and center. Attitude Era's back, baby. I was half expecting a hand to reach out and try and grab it like the guy for the Beautiful People in TNA. And also it says Seth on the back of the tights, which is just expert heel troll move by Lacey there. Very similar to when she had her first title match with with Becky a couple of months ago, and on her boots was a picture of her punching Becky in the face. I mean, like, say what you will about Lacey's character, but man, her troll game is just on point. Lacey tries to put the moves on Seth early on, which leads to Becky whomping the crap out of her with a kendo stick. Double stick attacks by Becky and Seth here. Corbin stops a dive by Rollins with the chair. At one point on commentary, Graves starts saying that, well, hey, if Becky and Seth lose, well, they won't divorce, but they'll definitely break up. And Cole's like, yeah, Graves, you can only get divorced if you're married. And Graves is like, I know all about this, Cole. I'm an expert on this by now, which is a great self-own, and I just love that Graves takes a shot at himself for saying that. There's a really funny moment where Becky and Lacey both go for chairs. Becky strikes first, which causes Lacey's chair to fly up in the air and dink Becky in the head. Lacey's mouth is busted open at some point as well. She pulls off a great marrow assault, but Becky does kick out at 2. Seth and Becky produce a pair of tables, but Becky's thrown into some stairs. Lacey and Baron both beat up Seth with the sticks. Double chokeslam by the heels and a double kick out. Great grunt by Baron and Lacey as they're doing the chokeslam as well.
And now Corbin runs away. And now Becky Lynch back in this double choke slam.
We get a big old quadruple suplex on the steel ramp. Everyone sells that bump equally. Becky with a second rope leg drop to Lacey through one table. Rollins with a huge frog splash off the top on the Corbin through the other. We're this late into the show and Cole finally says, this pay-per-view's gotten extreme. Holy hell, Baron Corbin, heel of the century, hitting Becky Lynch with end of days, and then right afterward rubs right into Seth's face going, what are you gonna do about it, you piece of shit? That makes Corbin the most awesome heel in the world for me right now. Seth just beats the bejesus out of Corbin in response to that, hits him with a bunch of weapons, hits him with 3 consecutive stickety stomps to win the match and retain the titles for he and his gal. I give this one 3 stars out of 4. I think it was a very well done match. From the beginning, I was worried / curious as to how they were going to handle a intergender / mixed tag match in the main event with these kind of stakes. And I think they did a pretty good job pulling it off, except for the promo game, however. I think, the match itself, the action was fun. There were some holy shit moments. There were some laugh out loud moments. It was an overall very fun main event. And the time it's taken me to say all this, by now Brock Lesnar's shown up and has beaten up Seth Rollins, which goes to our next match, the Universal Championship on the line as Brock cashes in on Seth Rollins. Arrive, F5, win, become the Universal Champion. Are we really doing this now? We're really doing this now? Come on. Oh, God. Anyway, I give it a half star out of 4 because, hey, at least it was a nice looking F5. I say this with all confidence by saying I think this is probably the best non-Big 4 show that they put on in a long time, especially just this year. I know the year's still not done yet, but I know the rest of the B shows for the rest of the year have a lot to live up to in this show. And yes, not every match lived up to the Extreme Rules moniker. Fine, whatever. But I think that for another show, kind of like Stomping Grounds, where there were not a whole lot of expectations of all the shows this weekend, it was the one people were looking least forward to, mostly because of the main event. I think that this show really knocked it out of the park. I think that all the talent just shone yet again, and there was not one bad match on this card, unless you count Owens and Ziggler and also Lesnar and Rollins. And yeah, the Lesnar thing sucks, and that's just kind of it's just another frustrating thing. I think it's just one of those things where we as fans kind of have to deal with it for the time being, and then once he loses again, maybe we can finally be rid of it just for a little bit. And again, the only other thing I didn't like about the show was just feeling bad for Samoa Joe, how often he just finds himself in these positions only to lose when it counts, essentially. But everything I think was good to great. Of all the matches on the show, my 3 favorites were Black versus Cesaro, Last Man Standing with Strowman and Lashley, and the Styles Ricochet match. But yeah, I think it was just between this show and G1 and Evolve and AEW, I feel like we as wrestling fans got really spoiled this weekend. And also, and in particular, this show, I think sets up a lot of stuff for SummerSlam next month. And between this and All Out, it's going to be a very interesting August. Let me know what you thought about Extreme Rules in the comment section below, and give it a letter grade by going to the iCard in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. Stay tuned for later this week when my belated Fight for the Fallen review drops either Tuesday or Wednesday. Sorry I couldn't get it out in a more timely fashion, but kind of like how it is with Fyter Fest, I only have so much time my weekend to spare for wrestling, and so there has to be a bit of a delay. I apologize, but until then, I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.